Emily Parker's murder haunted a quiet town for over 2 decades until a forgotten piece of DNA and a revolutionary breakthrough in genetic genealogy shattered decades of silence, revealing a shocking family secret no one saw coming. That piece was shattered one chilly autumn night over 20 years ago when Emily Parker, a vibrant young woman in her early 20s, was found dead inside her home. The discovery sent shockwaves through the close-knit community. Emily was loved by many, a local schoolteacher with a warm smile and a bright future. Her sudden and violent death left friends, family, and neighbors stunned, desperate for answers that never came. Technologies that were mere concepts in the late 1990s would evolve into powerful instruments for uncovering truth from tiny traces of biological material. This cold case, once thought unsolvable, would become a symbol of hope for victims everywhere. The quiet town that had mourned for so long was on the brink of a new chapter, one where cutting-edge forensic science would challenge the past and bring long-awaited answers to light. Originally used by people curious about their family roots, this technique combines DNA analysis with genealogy research to identify distant relatives of an unknown person. The idea was simple but powerful. By comparing the unknown DNA to profiles voluntarily submitted by people to ancestry websites, investigators could find family members and gradually build a family tree leading to the suspect. After gaining permission, detectives uploaded the DNA profile to public genealogy databases. What happened next was nothing short of astonishing. Matches appeared, not direct matches to the suspect, but two relatives who shared parts of the same DNA. Some were distant cousins, others closer relatives. Each connection was a clue, a branch on a sprawling family tree that investigators had to carefully piece together. But the road ahead would not be straightforward. The deeper the investigators dug, the more secrets they uncovered, and the closer they came to a truth that would shock the entire community. The police arrived quickly, but the scene offered little to go on. What once seemed impossible was becoming reality. Tiny traces of evidence could now tell stories that had long been silent. Advances in DNA technology opened new doors for investigators, hoping to solve cold cases like Emily's. When the local police department finally decided to revisit her case, they sent the preserved samples from the original crime scene bloodstains on the vase. Hairs from the doorway to a specialized forensic lab equipped with the latest technology. The lab technicians worked carefully, using highly sensitive methods that could extract and analyze DNA from even the smallest or most degraded samples. For the first time in decades, the investigation had fresh leads. The DNA profile recovered was clear and detailed, unlike anything possible 20 years earlier. There were no signs of forced entry and nothing valuable appeared to be stolen. Investigators hoped the killer's DNA might already be on file due to previous arrests or other crimes. But when the results came back, there was no direct match. The mystery deepened. The DNA evidence confirmed that the sample came from a single individual, but that person was not in any police database. It seemed the killer had avoided detection for years, living a normal life outside the reach of the law. Though frustrating, this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new approach. The only clues were small. Faint bloodstains on a broken vase and a few strands of hair found near the doorway. It seemed the killer had been careful, leaving no fingerprints or clear evidence behind. In a small, peaceful town where everyone knew each other, life seemed calm and ordinary. DNA testing existed but was limited, expensive, and often unreliable. Investigators sent samples to labs, but the results came back inconclusive. Without a suspect or solid evidence, the case stalled. The police interviewed dozens of people, friends, neighbors, co-workers, but no one had seen anything unusual. Rumors swirled, suspicions were raised, but nothing concrete emerged. Months turned into years, and the Emily Parker murder slowly slipped into the growing pile of cold cases. Her family refused to give up hope, holding on to memories and the belief that one day the truth would come out. Yet, as time passed, the trail grew colder, and the killer remained free, their identity a secret hidden in the shadows. Back then, forensic technology was nowhere near as advanced as it is today. For the town, the murder became a ghost story, a dark chapter best left unspoken. Yet beneath the silence, the pain lingered. Emily's parents kept her room just as it was, hoping for a sign of justice. Friends quietly wondered who among them could have been responsible. Local law enforcement, frustrated by the lack of progress, hoped for a breakthrough that never came. The case file gathered dust, evidence boxes sat untouched, and the murder of Emily Parker became a haunting mystery that refused to fade. What no one could predict was that science, slowly advancing in labs around the world, was quietly developing the tools that would one day reopen this case. Years after Emily Parker's murder, the world of forensic science was rapidly changing. This new profile was sent to national criminal databases, where millions of DNA records are stored and regularly searched for matches. Around the same time, a revolutionary method called genetic genealogy was emerging. Originally used by people curious about their family roots, this technique combines DNA analysis with genealogy research to identify distant relatives of an unknown person. The idea was simple but powerful. By comparing the unknown DNA to profiles voluntarily submitted by people to ancestry websites, investigators could find family members and gradually build a family tree leading to the suspect. After gaining permission, detectives uploaded the DNA profile to public genealogy databases. The case was no longer just a sad story frozen in time. It was alive again, with fresh leads and real chances of justice. When the DNA profile from Emily's case was uploaded to public genealogy databases, it didn't directly point to a single individual. Instead, it showed several distant relatives, each sharing some genetic markers with the unknown suspect. These matches weren't close family, more like third or fourth cousins, but they were enough to start mapping out a complex family tree. They finally identified a cluster of relatives living in the same town and nearby areas. It was close enough to confirm he was a close relative of the real suspect, but not the killer himself. This unexpected twist complicated the case. If David wasn't the murderer, then who in this tangled family tree was responsible? The investigation suddenly took on a new urgency. The near match with David's DNA revealed something critical. The real suspect was likely a close relative, possibly a sibling, someone who had deliberately stayed out of public records and contact. It meant that the killer had cleverly hidden within the family, possibly someone who had intentionally erased or obscured their past. Among them was a man named David, who lived just a few houses away from where Emily had lived. The team realized they were dealing with a secret that had been buried for decades, protected by silence and deception. To solve the case, they would have to uncover the truth behind this family mystery and expose someone who had lived a double life. What started as a simple murder investigation had transformed into a deeper, more complex story about identity, trust, and the hidden darkness lurking beneath a seemingly ordinary neighborhood. He was in his mid-40s, with no criminal record, and a reputation as a quiet, unassuming neighbor. David's presence in the family tree raised alarms. He fit the profile and was close enough to have been involved, but he had never been considered a suspect before. Genealogists began tracing these connections, working through decades of family records, marriage certificates, and census data to piece together how these relatives were linked. But as investigators followed the family tree deeper into the past and across generations, they were about to uncover secrets that would turn everything they thought they knew upside down. The genealogists looked for common ancestors, following branches backward through time, then traced their descendants forward again. Privacy concerns sparked debates among legal experts, genealogists, and the public. Many people who had submitted their DNA to genealogy websites for personal reasons never imagined it might be used in criminal investigations. Questions arose about consent and whether this technology could lead to false accusations or invasions of privacy. Law enforcement agencies had to carefully balance the need for justice with respect for individuals' rights, using strict protocols to avoid misusing the data. Slowly, the circle of potential suspects began to narrow. The family tree stretched across several generations and included many people. But the investigators focused on those who were alive and living near the town at the time of Emily's murder. As they dug deeper, they discovered surprising connections and hidden family histories. Some branches revealed long-forgotten disputes and secrets, which added new layers to the investigation. The mystery of Emily Parker's murder was far from over, and the truth lurking in the branches of that tree would soon reveal a shocking and unexpected twist. What happened next was nothing short of astonishing. Matches appeared, not direct matches to the suspect, but to relatives who shared parts of the same DNA. Some were distant cousins, others closer relatives. Each connection was a clue, a branch on a sprawling family tree that investigators had to carefully piece together. With every new match, genealogists and detectives worked side by side, tracing family lines through historical records, birth certificates, and old newspapers. The process was painstaking and complex, requiring patience and precision. The case began to take shape in ways that traditional methods had never allowed, but this new technology was not without controversy. Critics raised concerns about privacy and consent, questioning whether it was right to use genealogy databases for criminal investigations. Some worried about innocent people being caught in the crossfire. The debate grew as more cold cases were reopened using this method. Yet, for Emily's family, it was a beacon of hope. The combination of advanced DNA testing and genetic genealogy brought a new sense of possibility. Using genetic genealogy to solve crimes was a groundbreaking step in forensic science, but it required patience and a lot of detective work beyond the lab. This process was like solving a giant, real-life puzzle. This method of linking DNA to family trees had already been successful in cracking other cold cases, but it was still relatively new and controversial. Despite these challenges, the team investigating Emily's case pushed forward, driven by the hope of bringing closure to a family that had waited over 20 years. However, when investigators obtained a direct DNA sample from David, it didn't perfectly match the crime scene sample. The revelation that the suspect was a hidden family member was both thrilling and chilling. As the investigators continued their deep dive into the family tree, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place in unexpected ways. The near match with David's DNA revealed something critical. The real suspect was likely a close relative, possibly a sibling, someone who had deliberately stayed out of public records and contact. This meant the killer had carefully hidden their identity, erasing any obvious connections and slipping quietly through life, while the community remained unaware. The detectives turned their attention to uncovering this missing person. They discovered that he had moved frequently, avoiding long-term residency anywhere. His transient lifestyle made him difficult to track, and until now, no law enforcement agency had connected him to the crime. But the genealogy work had brought his name back into focus. And with modern surveillance and investigative tools, the team narrowed down his last known whereabouts. It was a moment of relief and sadness. Justice had been served, but only after so many years of pain. Mark had lived a double life, evading suspicion by disappearing into the shadows. The case showed how science can not only solve crimes, but also uncover the tangled webs of human relationships and secrets. For the community, the experience was a stark reminder that sometimes the most chilling truths are found not in strangers, but within families themselves. The case also revealed the incredible power of modern forensic science to pierce through layers of mystery and deception. Advances in DNA technology and genealogy had transformed a hopeless cold case into a solved crime, shining a light on a hidden truth that might never have come to light otherwise. Delving into old birth certificates, school records, and local archives, the team found a name buried in the family history. Mark. He was David's younger brother, who had disappeared in his early 20s, years before Emily's murder. But it also sparked broader reflections about the power and consequences of forensic science. This case was one of many across the country that showcased how advances in DNA technology and genetic genealogy were reshaping the way law enforcement approached unsolved crimes. Once reliant on eyewitnesses and limited physical evidence, investigators could now unlock secrets hidden in genetic code, even decades after a crime occurred. For Emily's family, the breakthrough was a bittersweet triumph. Justice had been served, but only after years of uncertainty and pain. No one in town had seen or heard from Mark since then, and his absence had been quietly accepted as a family tragedy. But suddenly, Mark's disappearance took on a far darker meaning. The possibility that Mark was the true killer forced the investigation into a new and urgent direction. The detectives searched for any trace of Mark, piecing together fragments of his life after leaving town. Meanwhile, the town was gripped by a mixture of shock and disbelief. The idea that the killer had lived so close, unseen and unsuspected, unsettled many. DNA from Mark was compared to the original crime scene evidence and matched perfectly. His genetic profile confirmed what the genealogy had revealed. The missing brother was indeed the murderer. Further digging exposed a motive that had remained buried for years. A deep jealousy and resentment toward Emily, who had been a beloved figure in their community and a source of family tension. Neighbors who had once greeted David with friendly smiles began to question what they thought they knew about the quiet man next door. Rumors spread and fear lingered as people wondered what other secrets might be hidden in plain sight. When the investigators finally found Mark, the confrontation was swift. Mark's arrest brought a shocking end to a case that had haunted the town for decades. But the story also left lingering questions about identity, trust, and the lengths people go to hide their past. The arrest of Mark brought a sense of closure to Emily Parker's family and the entire town. But it also sparked broader reflections about the power and consequences of forensic science. This case was one of many across the country that showcased how advances in DNA technology and genetic genealogy were reshaping the way law enforcement approached unsolved crimes. Once reliant on eyewitnesses and limited physical evidence, investigators could now unlock secrets hidden in genetic code, even decades after a crime occurred. For Emily's family, the breakthrough was a bittersweet triumph. Justice had been served, but only after years of uncertainty and pain. As news of the case spread, it stirred debates about privacy and ethics in forensic genealogy. Police departments across the country began adopting similar methods, often partnering with genealogists and legal experts to ensure investigations were both effective and responsible. It showed that justice, though sometimes delayed, can still be achieved through innovation and perseverance. The quiet town that had mourned for so long was forever changed by this journey from darkness to light, from mystery to truth. And as forensic science pushes forward into new frontiers, countless other stories, like Emily's, wait to be told, reminding us that every piece of DNA carries a story worth uncovering. Training programs were developed to teach officers how to use genetic genealogy while protecting privacy and avoiding mistakes. As forensic technology continues to evolve, these standards will remain crucial in guiding its use. While many praise the technology for its ability to solve cold cases and bring closure to victims, others worried about how genetic data might be used. The combined power of advanced DNA sequencing and genealogical research allowed investigators to navigate through layers of mystery that had once seemed impenetrable. Cold cases that had frustrated police for years suddenly had new life. Families who had waited decades without answers finally found solace. Moreover, the case demonstrated how forensic technology could reveal hidden family histories and identities, exposing truths that were sometimes difficult to accept but essential for justice. People questioned whether law enforcement's access to public genealogy databases could lead to unintended consequences, such as wrongful accusations or breaches of privacy. Some family members of suspects felt uneasy knowing that their DNA, shared by relatives online for family history purposes, could implicate them in crimes they never committed. These concerns led to calls for stricter regulations and clearer guidelines governing the use of genetic genealogy in criminal investigations. Despite these challenges, the success in Emily's case highlighted the undeniable benefits of modern forensic science. The story of Emily Parker also raised profound questions about the nature of identity and the secrets that families keep. Mark's ability to evade detection for so long by simply stepping out of sight showed how fragile the trust within communities can be. It was a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that even those closest to us may hide dark secrets. The investigation not only solved a murder, but also unraveled a complicated family history filled with silence, pain, and deception. For law enforcement, this case became a model for how to carefully balance the promise of new technology with respect for ethical concerns. Emily's case was a powerful testament to how science and determination can overcome obstacles once thought insurmountable. It showed that justice, though sometimes delayed, can still be achieved through innovation and perseverance. The quiet town that had mourned for so long was forever changed by this journey from darkness to light, from mystery to truth. And as forensic science pushes forward into new frontiers, countless other stories like Emily's wait to be told, reminding us that every piece of DNA carries a story worth uncovering.